Hello there, I'm Louisa and I'm going to teach you some academic vocabulary today. If you are going to take IELTS, TOEFL, SAT or any other academic test, this video is for you. Today we're discussing words about work. There is so much material in exams about work, and almost every Cambridge IELTS book has a reading or listening passage about business, companies, or workers. And today we will look at some words, some less common academic words from a text passage in Cambridge IELTS 1. So off we go.
So the first word in today's lesson is productivity. Productivity is American pronunciation and productivity is British pronunciation. It's a noun that means the rate at which a worker or a company produces goods. In other words, it shows how fast a worker or a company produces goods. Productivity in the workplace refers simply to how much work is done over a specific period of time. The simplest way to calculate productivity is to divide units produced or sales by labor hours. For instance, if a company produces 10,000 cars in 5,000 hours, productivity would simply be 2 cars per hour because 10,000 divided by 5,000 equals 2. You can calculate your personal productivity too. For example, if you learn 60 words in 2 hours, then your productivity is 1 word per 2 minutes. Let's look at some examples. Organizations today just can't afford to lose productivity. It means organizations today just can't have their workers work slowly. If you want to stay in this job, you'll need to get your productivity up. This means you'll have to work faster and produce more company goods or services in a specific period of time. The adjective form is productive. Productive has 2 meanings, and one of them being making goods or growing crops, especially in large quantities. For instance, highly productive farming land. So if farming land is highly productive, it means it produces lots of crops. It can grow, people can grow lots of different vegetables or fruit on that farming land. Productive workers. Productive workers can produce lots of goods and services over a specific period of time. The second meaning is doing or achieving a lot. For instance, a productive meeting. If a meeting is productive, it means some decisions have been made, some conclusions have been made, or people have come to some form of agreements and arrangements. Let's look at an example that comes from Cambridge IELTS Test 3. For the first century or so of the Industrial Revolution, increased productivity led to decreases in working hours. This means that in the first century, that is in the first 100 years or so of the Industrial Revolution, productivity went up. That means more services and more goods were produced, and that caused the decrease in working hours. So people didn't have to work as many hours as they did before. The next word is employ. To employ is a verb, and it means to give somebody a job to do for payment. For instance, how many people does this company employ? In other words, how many people or how many workers work in this company? How many people does this company pay to do a job, to do work? Another example, the company currently employs 150 workers in total. Another related noun is employee. Employee is a noun which shows a person who is paid to work for somebody. And employer is a person or company that pays people to work for them. So employers give jobs to employees, and employees work for their employers. Let's look at an example. The relationship between employees and employers has to be a partnership. That means they have to be partners, not enemies. They have to be friendly. They have to try to understand each other. And that way, it can bring some good results. Then there is the word employment, which is also related to employ. And it has two meanings. It's a noun. And in the first meaning, it's mostly uncountable. Employment, in other words, means work or the state of being employed. For example, it's not easy to find employment in this field. In other words, it's not easy to get a job in this field. The organization provided employment for thousands of people, which means the organization gave work for thousands of people. She took up employment with the company last year. It means she got a job with this company last year. He tried to secure employment in the car industry. To secure employment means to find work, to get a job. So he tried to secure employment means he tried to get a job in the car industry. Most of last year's interns are in now paid employment. To be in paid employment means to have a job, to have work for which you get money. There are limited employment opportunities here. That means here there aren't many options for work, so you can't find a job easily here. People seeking employment in the IT sector will not be dissatisfied. To seek employment means to look for a job. So people looking for a job in the IT sector will not be dissatisfied. And the second meaning of this word is the situation in which people have work. In this meaning, the word employment is uncountable too. And an example, the latest employment figures show a fall in the number of people who are out of work. Employment figures normally show how many people in a region or in a country have jobs. The government aims to achieve full employment within 3 years. That means the government has a plan. The government wants all of the people in the country who are able to work to have jobs. Now, earlier we looked at the verb form, employ, and now we're going to talk about two adjectives which are related to the word employ. The first one is unemployed. This adjective means without a job, although able to work. So if someone is unemployed, they don't have a job, they are jobless. For instance, how long have you been unemployed? So, how long have you been out of work? We can talk about unemployed workers or unemployed people. Another adjective is underemployed. If you're underemployed, you don't have enough work to do, or your work doesn't make full use of your skills and abilities. So imagine you have done a degree at university, you got a master's degree, but right now you're working as a waiter in a cafe. Being a waiter is not easy. It's quite hard, but in the job of a waiter, you can't use all your skills and knowledge that you have acquired at university. So you are underemployed. And an example sentence, the company director said one of the goals of her company is to provide jobs for underemployed residents. And an example from the passage, although the output per hour of work has more than doubled since 1945, leisure seems reserved largely for the unemployed and underemployed. This means that although since 1945 the productivity has increased more than twice, leisure, which is basically free time is mostly had by unemployed and underemployed. That is, mostly unemployed and underemployed people seem to have leisure time. So people who work, who have jobs, they don't seem to have leisure time. Now let's move on to the word wage or wages, which is a regular amount of money that you earn. usually every week or every month for work or services. For example, employees in this company earn a good wage. That is, they earn good money. We all want a job that pays a decent wage. So we all want a job that can give us enough money. Wages of $500 were paid on Saturdays. That means employees got the money they earned every Saturday. The average wage for unskilled workers is very low. This means unskilled workers have actually receive very little money for their work. There are extra benefits for people on low wages. Well, low wages means people get very, very little money. They are prepared to work for wages well below the legal minimum. We can talk about low wage earners or minimum wage earners. That means a group of people who earn very little money, the least money in the country. The next word is fatigue. Fatigue is an uncountable noun, which means a feeling of being extremely tired, usually because of hard work or exercise. It's a synonym for the words tiredness and exhaustion. For example, good sleep and the right vitamins can help you combat fatigue, which means if you are very tired, good sleep and the right vitamins can help you. Another example, a lack of energy is a sign of fatigue. It means if you don't have enough energy, you're probably tired. And one more sentence, people can experience mental and physical fatigue, which means you are not only necessarily physically tired, but you can also be mentally tired. You can be tired in your mind. And now an example from the passage. Part-time workers make better use of the time they have, and they are less likely to succumb to fatigue in stressful jobs. According to this sentence, part-time workers use their time in a better way than full-time workers. Although full-time workers are not said here, but because there's comparative degree used in here, we just logically understand that there's we're comparing part-time and full-time workers. And they are less likely to feel tired in stressful jobs. We're moving on to the word personnel. Personnel is a plural noun and it means the people who work for an organization. Do not confuse it with the word personal. Personal as in personal information, personal items. Personal means individual, referring to you, yourself particularly, not anyone else. But personnel is kind of stuff. Those are people who work for an organization. We can talk about sales personnel, technical personnel, or medical personnel. For instance, they've reduced the number of personnel working on the project. This means they have decreased the number of people working on the project. So not as many people work on this project as they used to. Only authorized personnel have access to the computer system. This means only a few particular people have access to the computer system. The next word is hire. To hire is a verb and it means to give somebody a job. For example, he was hired 3 years ago. It means he got a job. He was given a job 3 years ago. The government is encouraging employers to hire disabled people. So the government is trying to help employers to give jobs to disabled people. So they want employers to give jobs to disabled people. We're not hiring right now. It means we don't have any vacancies. We don't have any free positions, so we're not giving any jobs to people. The department is in charge of the hiring and firing in our company. So to fire someone is the opposite of hire someone. To fire means to ask people to leave their jobs. So this department is responsible for giving people a job and also taking jobs away from them. Next up, we have the word overtime. Overtime can be an adverb and a noun, and it means extra time that you work after your usual working hours. So for instance, your normal working day finishes at 6 o'clock, but if you stay until 7 or 8, you work a few extra hours, and that is overtime. You can use a phrase to do overtime or to work overtime. You can talk about overtime pay or overtime earnings or overtime hours. For example, sometimes employees have to work overtime. So they have to stay a few more hours at work, or maybe they can work from home, but it's still, they would work more than they're supposed to. Some workers refuse to do overtime. I haven't worked many overtime hours this month. Now let's look at an example from the passage. There are several reasons for leisure. Since 1979, companies have responded to improvements in the business climate by having employees work overtime rather than by hiring extra personnel. So, according to this sentence, since 1979, companies have shown some reaction to improvements in business in general. And what they did is they started to ask their employees to work overtime instead of hiring new employees. So they preferred their existing workers to do more work, to stay longer and work more hours, than taking on new employees, taking on new workers. The next word is compensation. Compensation has two meanings. The first meaning is money that you pay to someone because you're responsible for injuring them or damaging something. For example, most of the workers have won compensation for losing their jobs. So if you lose a job with a company, the company pays you compensation because you lost your job. Another example, the employee received £5,000 as compensation for his injuries. So this employee was injured at work and the company had to pay £5,000 to this person. Another meaning of the word compensation is simply money that an employee receives for doing their job. In this meaning, it is synonym to salary or wages. For instance, you can send your CV and current compensation to our Human Resources Department. So according to this sentence, you are asked to send your CV and how much money you're currently getting to our Human Resources Department. Let's move on to the word overworked. Overworked is an adjective. Someone who is overworked has to work too much. For instance, we can talk about overworked doctors and nurses. They have too much work. They're too stressed. We are overworked and underpaid. It means we have too much work and we're doing this, we're stressed, and we're receiving little money for it. The verb form is to overwork. And to overwork has actually two meanings. One being to work too hard, and another one being to make a person or an animal work too hard. So in this case, you don't work hard yourself, you make someone work hard. For example, lately I've been overworking and I feel so tired. According to this sentence, this person who says this sentence works too hard, him or herself, so they feel tired. The firm overworks their staff. Here, on the other hand, the firm makes people work. It doesn't work too hard itself, but it makes their staff, their personnel, to work too hard. Overwork can also be a noun, and it means the fact of working too hard. For instance, his health problems were caused by money worries and overwork, which means it is because of the money worries and because of too much work that his health problems started. And the last word today is efficient. Efficient is an adjective, and it means doing something in a good, careful, and complete way with no waste of time, money, or energy. So if we say that some work is efficient or some service is efficient, it means it is done in a careful and complete way, and very little time, money, and energy is spent on that. For example, this is simply the most efficient way to do it. We can talk about a highly efficient employee. It means this person does his or her job very well and spends little time and energy on it, so very few resources. Fuel-efficient cars are cars that do not use much fuel, so we will spend less money and less energy on them. Efficiently is the adverb form. Efficiently. For example, resources must be used efficiently to avoid waste. This means that resources must be used carefully in order not to spend a lot of money on them. Efficiency is the noun form, and it's the quality of doing something well with no waste of time or money. For instance, improvements have been made in efficiency at the factory. According to this sentence, there have been some improvements at the factory, so now it works using less time, less money, and less energy. And an example sentence from the passage. Diminishing returns may eventually set in as overworked employees lose efficiency. According to this sentence, we have overworked employees. That means employees who work too hard, they work too much, they're tired, and now they're losing efficiency. It means they're taking longer time to do some work, and as a result, they lose efficiency. And because it takes them more time to do the same work that they used to do before at a higher speed, the company may receive less income as a result of such a situation. So diminishing returns means less income for companies.
So now we've come to the end of this video. I would strongly suggest that for your reading practice, you download the file that goes with this video and read the full passage from beginning to end, and also try to do the questions that go after it. I hope to see you in the next video. Take care.